Good evening, I'm Tita Monzon Palma.
And I'm Tony Velasquez.
On our broadcast tonight, Philippine President Rodrigo Duterte is expected to announce this evening whether he will heed the recommendation of the COVID-19 task force to ease lockdown restrictions in Metro Manila.
Now, various sectors have been suffering from these lockdown measures, but even if the president decides to revert to a general community quarantine for Metro Manila, local governments of cities can still impose their own measures to fight the spread of COVID-19. Pia Gutierrez has tonight's top story.
President Rodrigo Duterte is set to decide on the recommendations of the COVID-19 task force to ease lockdowns on Metro Manila and other parts of the country on Thursday. The interagency task force earlier recommended to President Duterte to downgrade Metro Manila from the modified ECQ to a more relaxed general community quarantine by June 1st.
Meron tayong recommendation na ginawa na ihahain natin sa Pangulo. Ito ay ang paglilipat ng mga lugar na from GCQ ay magiging modified GCQ at iba namang modified ECQ ay mapupunta na sa GCQ, lalong-lalo na ang Metro Manila.
Anyo says that even under the general community quarantine, local governments have the authority to impose village lockdowns in areas that have high cases of COVID-19. Under the GCQ, Category 1 industries will be allowed to operate at 100% capacity. These include power, energy, water, and other utilities, agriculture, fishery, and forestry industries, food manufacturing and food supply chain businesses, including food retail establishments such as supermarkets and groceries, and food preparation establishments, but only for takeout and delivery, food delivery services, health-related establishments, logistics, IT, telecommunication, and media companies. Leisure establishments will still not be allowed to operate, while mass gatherings will be limited for the provision of critical government services and humanitarian activities. The palace is confident that considering the number of confirmed
mga kababayan ko, magandang gabi po sa inyong lahat. Nandito po kami para ipaalam sa inyo yung mga palisiya na dapat nating sundin at direksyon natin kung saan tayo patungon. Lahat na ito po ay ginagawa namin, believe me, because the interest of the nation calls for it, demands for it actually. I have to be productive as president. And in order to do that, I have to go around and look for myself the situation all throughout the country. That is the job of the president, seeing to it that the republic is well guarded and the welfare of the people is the highest concern. Itong klase po, nandito si Secretary Briones. She will tell us what is her policy and what are her plans for the studentry, mga estudyante. She's here to explain to you, and maybe isali ko na yung deadline ng tuition. Yung tuition ho sana I hope that you'd allow staggered payment or installments lang po sa mga eskwelahan. And for those who have really nothing to come up to sa bayaran, you have the land bank, and kindly listen to the rules. Kasi itong land bank, bubuksan namin and you can borrow money to finance the education of your children. Lahat ito, pupunta ito sa talagang negative. Meaning to say that we are hard-pressed in our finances, but we have to place the premium of education. So that this would be another round of expenses, but Land Bank is there to help you. And dito po ako interesado. I want the development of this endeavor of the Land Bank to help. Gusto ko malaman na matutupad talaga. So maybe I will require a report every day how it goes, how it would present itself to the public once it is available. And, the NCR will now be placed under the General Community Quarantine, or the JCQ, starting June 1. Davao City will remain JCQ rather. And the other areas under GCQ, itong ating task force, the regions that would remain under GCQ will be regions 2, 3, 4A, and Pangasinan, Albay. Yan sila until we have reviewed the general situation. We are not happy to put you in this place, but after review, maybe we can. But just let me tell you today that of those who are of late infection or those arriving in the country, we have a spike of about 5,000. Secretary, 500 rather, sorry, 500 lang. And Secretary Duque will expound more on that. The rest of the country will be placed under modified general community quarantine. Again, the rest of the country will be placed under modified general community quarantine. That is very clear now. In other areas, it will be again on a piecemeal basis, depending on the viability of the place to meet the challenges of COVID. But from time to time, Secretary Roque would give us the places where there will be changes. The opening of the airports. I have asked Secretary Tugadi, and he will have his time later to explain what are his plans. We would like to know, sabay-sabay tayo. Then dito sa assistance ng OFW, we are coordinating with every government agency to help them. And sana po hindi na ito maulit yung there was this stranded Filipinos, not knowing where to go and when. And we decided immediately that they be returned to their home provinces. Nangyari po ito, halos sa kanila nakauwi na. But we are expecting the 300,000 something that Secretary Bellew has communicated to us. And that would be also a problem again. But this time, we should know what to do. It's a matter of calibrating every arrival and maybe sending immediately, if possible, the overseas workers coming in first. Unless, of course, they are detained because of they are sick of COVID. I mean, sick, talagang kailangan ng ospital. Dito naman sa, well, let me appeal to itong mga landlords, the owner of lahat na, malls, bazaars, big stores, whatever, na merong mga anong tawag nito, yung franchise nila sa may mga different stores selling different anything. What you have is you own the big building to be rented out. Marami dito sa kanila po gusto ninyo na magbayad ng 50% even if they are not operating. Actually, I am at a loss really to explain to you how. But you know, when you collect from somebody who is not earning at all, it's practically flogging a dead horse. Kung patay na yung kabayo, paski gaano mo kahampas dyan, di na mabubuhay yan. And that is what's happening. If they are not earning, where will they get the 50% to pay? If not the 100% that you'd want to collect. So, it seems to me a problem, but I would like to appeal to the owners of the buildings, of the malls and everything. Ganito na lang, just pray everybody has a God. Just pray that the vaccine, ang target nila is September. September, I think China will be able to distribute, if I'm not mistaken, and the other countries are catching up. Everybody is at it, so they are really trying their very best. Kaya lang, itong China, hindi ito hambog, wala itong ere, but they you know, they work, and I'm very sure that they will be the first one of the countries that would be able to come up with the vaccine. Ang atin ito is yung mga rental sana, balikan ko, should be a matter that should be addressed by the DTI. And there can be some sort of an adjudication process to fix this problem. Ako naman, nakikiusap, nagmakaawa, dahil nga talagang, if you're not earning, how are you supposed to pay? So, maawa naman tayo sa mga kababayan natin. Let us help one another. If it does not really spell bankruptcy sa inyo, hindi tiisin na lang ninyo with nothing except your savings to tide you over. Baka sakali makatulong yung appeal ng gobyerno. Remember that the nation is still, the entire nation is still under quarantine. Let us move to the so-called new normal as we, let's see what develops ahead. Okay, kung mayroon lang bukas, I will be the first to announce. But alam mo, remember, the COVID microbes are still in the air that you breathe, that you pass on to your fellow men if you are not ready or willing to wear the mask. It is precisely, this is the protection not for you if you do not want it, but for the protection of the other guy. And that is why the state has every right to control your movement if you pass on a contagion to the other to the population. Kasi kung ikaw lang ang gusto, ayaw mo, and there are people who are like that, ayaw nila. And they believe that they have the antibodies to fight the coronavirus. So, if the virus is there, tapos gusto mong labanan, bahala ka. But for you to pass that virus, if you get it from one place and from another person and pass it to the other guy, that's different. That is where the right of the state comes in. So that to prevent a mass contagion, gusto namin putulin kung saan namin maputol to stop it. That is the reason of the essence of the police power of the state, to come up with measures to protect public interest, public health, public safety, lahat. Nandiyan yan. Case of peace and order, magkagulo, the state comes in. Yung contagion and everybody is dying, falling, kasali yan. Public interest, if say, uncontrolled movement, or baski people trying to seize other people's property or things like just being into a state of anarchy. The state has the right to come in and put a stop on it. This is the survival of the Republic of the Philippines. And this is a country of Filipinos who obey the laws. If you do not obey the law, that's your problem. Bahala ka. Good kung makasibat ka. Kung hindi ka makasibat, ay pasensya ka. And that goes for everybody. That should be made clear. Hindi kasi ng tao na they take for granted violating the law. We would start a program. We start with Secretary Briones because I think that's the foremost in the minds of people. Go ahead, ma'am. Let the cameras be trained to...
Thank you, Mr. President. My statement will be very short. It's based on a letter which I wrote to you after you made your statement about not allowing the opening of classes during the time of COVID. And so we are here from the DepEd to assure you that we are one with you in your uncompromising stand on the matter of the health and the safety of our learners and our teachers. You said, I will not allow the opening of classes na dikit-dikit ang mga bata. Para sa akin, bakuna muna bago andyan ang bakuna, okay na. We are saying because there is confusion and anxiety among Filipinos, families, especially the parents. We are here to state that we are one with you, Mr. President, in this non-negotiable commitment. It is the first and the most important principle when we worked out our learning community plan with all the details. We stated this also. The first and foremost concern is the health and safety of our learners and our teachers. Mr. President, there has been a confusion among our people who associate the opening of school with what we describe as face-to-face classes, where we are used to learners, we are used to teachers facing each other, and we are used to children going to school physically. But we are saying that there will be no face-to-face classes and sessions until we are assured of the safety of our children and our teachers. However, we also believe, Mr. President, that we can provide learning opportunities to our students without necessarily requiring them to go to school. And this we can do through what is described as blended and distant learning. Mr. President, this is not a new thing. We have many universities and schools which offer distant learning in many ways. We now call it blended learning because various approaches which are adjusted to the actual situation of the communities will be applied. But these are all, Mr. President, consistent with your preference that we should not be physically sending our children to school until it is safe to do so. What is the so-called blending or learning modalities? Because right now, there is a bill which is filed in Congress on this. One, for those who don't have connections, who don't have interactive facilities, there will be what we describe as printed material, which will be delivered to the homes of the students through the barangays, can be picked up also by their parents at designated places within coordinated schedules. We'll be working very closely with the barangays and the local governments. And the second approach is now very popular, Mr. President. This is the online learning platform, and we in DepEd, we have what we describe as DepEd Commons. Right now, we already have over 7 million subscribers, wherein lessons, homework, quizzes, tips to learners and to teachers are all in the DepEd Commons and are accessible even to the parents. So we have instances, Mr. President, of parents who are abroad and who are monitoring what is happening to their children. They also go to the DepEd Commons and check on how their children are doing. Now, in cases, Mr. President, where there is no connectivity and printed materials may not be available immediately, we have the classic long-time approaches which have always been used in education, and this would be television. Those homes which do not necessarily have connectivity and may have television. And the most and the best used approach, of course, is radio-based instruction. Kasi ang television, mga 1950s, 60s, radios have been around since the 1800s when it was first invented. And we know that 2 world wars were won through radio messages and not necessarily computers and so on. So yung printed modules, Mr. President, we have a description of what it entails. And then also, on the matter of online, ito yung popular talaga. It's gaining popularity, online distance learning with already 7 million subscribers. And we assume here that they have access to internet. And one worry is how about the students and the teachers? Do they have access to laptops? We made a survey, Mr. President, of teachers, more than about 788,000 of them, to find out whether they have laptops or desktops in their homes. More than 80%, nearly 700,000 have laptops or desktops in their homes, because teachers acquire these for various uses. They have family members abroad or friends, etc., etc. So this is a very, very popular mechanism for dispensing education. Now, for those who don't have access to interconnectivity, then we have television. Right now, Mr. President, 15% of television time, this is provided by law, should be dedicated to programs designed for children. So there are already existing educational programs on television stations. What we need to do is to utilize these programs to transmit our curricula. And we are working out how to do this. For example, Mr. President, PCOO is volunteering its TV facilities and also IBC 13, which is radio, for the utilization of lessons through radio and television. Radio and television for those who don't have access to a computer. Now, radio-based instruction is quite popular, Mr. President, because right now, municipalities are volunteering. Usually, municipalities have their radio stations. Cities have radio stations. There are local radio stations, and big networks also have radio stations. And many of them have lessons, which yung tawag nyon is schools of the air. Mayroong mga religious groups, they give lessons in agriculture, lessons in whatever sciences over the air, because alam nila not everybody has access to television or to online computers. So ito yung ancient, pinakamatandang paraan for teaching as an alternative to face-to-face. Now, Mr. President, what we are doing in the regions is, the regions are different from each other. Some regions have many islands, some regions have many mountains, some regions have interconnectivity, and so on and so forth. So what our regions are now doing is to translate our curriculum from curriculum for lecture, the teacher lectures the children for long periods of time. It has to be translated, one, into digital modes sa platforms natin, into television programs, because children have to be taught through in a different way. Iba yung effect ng television programs because their attention span can be very brief as well. And then also converted into radio scripts. So this is where much of the work is now being concentrated. What we are saying, Mr. President, is that we fully and completely support your stand that our children should not be exposed to the dangers of COVID-19 physically, but we are also offering opportunities for them to continue their studies and their learnings. And some people ask, are we prepared? What we are trying to do, Mr. President, are not really new. Hindi naman to bagong invento. Because distance education, many universities have distance education programs. Many local governments have radio stations. We are utilizing existing ways of communication without necessarily requiring our children to go to school. So they can still go to school, they can still study, teachers can monitor them as well as their parents. So ito yung namin, Mr. President, which we would like to share with you, and we seek your approval of our alternative ways of learning, which are already existing right now. And these are being done by many schools. But this time, mas malaki ang emphasis because we are now shifting to less physical, face-to-face classes. But education will continue, Mr. President. Thank you.
I'm impressed with the simplicity of the program, and I believe that all that you have said is really feasible. Radio, walang television, and all of these things. I believe we have a very workable program, and I support you. And should you require any help from any of the departments, feel free to communicate with them. If it's a question of funding, I will, so to speak, scrape the bottom of the barrel. Just to, well, kung wala na tayong pera, edukaran lang natin sa edukasyon sa mga bata. We will have to forgo many things along the way because of what happened. But education, I think, if it is compromised, it should be negligible, so that it should go on, because the future of this country depends on how we educate our young people nowadays. I agree with you in this program. I support you. And if there's anything that we can do, the ALG and or whatever, we will
Thank you very much, Mr. President.
endeavor to help you.
Thank you.
So, with that, we are through with education. I would just like to announce to the public, as of today, we have a total number of COVID cases of 15,588. Now, the recoveries, 92 new ones, with a total of something like 3,598 to date. Ang patay po is 921. So you would see that Philippines has ratio and proportion vis-a-vis with the population. We have a low rate of mortality here in this country. The total active cases is 11,069. So, in CR is top-notcher, which is 330 or 61%. Then we have Region 7, 55, others 99. Mga repatriate, yung dati na dala dito 55. All in all, para sa akin, hindi naman masama ito.